The Bride Who Walked Alone, a story of silence, strength, and self-worth. The mirror in the bridal suite shimmered beneath soft morning light. In it stood a woman draped in silk and lace, flawless, poised, breathtaking, and yet, behind her calm eyes, something fragile trembled. Caroline adjusted the pearl pin in her hair, fingers cold against her skin. The scent of white roses filled the air, mingling with the faint echo of laughter outside. Bridesmaids fluttered down hallways, guests took their seats under the vineyard's golden arches, and the world seemed to hum with joy, except hers. On the vanity, her phone lay silent. No messages. No calls. No, we're on our way. Her parents had promised they'd come. Her father was supposed to walk her down the aisle. Her mother was supposed to fasten her veil and whisper something motherly and proud, but instead, she got a text at dawn: "Your brother's moving today. We can't miss it. Congratulations, sweetheart." Caroline stared at those words until the letters blurred. Not anger, not even sadness, just a quiet, sinking realization that she was truly alone. The walk down the aisle. When the music began, the doors opened to a flood of light and whispers. The guests rose, eyes full of warmth, waiting for the radiant bride. She took one breath, and another, and then, with no hand to hold, no arm to lean on, she stepped forward. Each heel struck the floor with a soft, steady rhythm. Each step was both heartbreak and rebirth. Outside, the vineyard glowed gold under the afternoon sun. Her groom, Ethan, waited at the altar, the only person who had ever seen her fully. When she reached him, he took her trembling hand without a word, and in that touch, she found her strength again. The ceremony passed in a blur of smiles and tears. When they kissed, guests cheered, unaware that behind her smile, a quiet storm still raged. Years later, 2 years had passed since that wedding, 2 years of sleepless nights, relentless work, and silent determination. The woman who once stood alone in a bridal gown now stood before a skyline of glass and steel. Her name shone in gold letters on the frosted glass door: Caroline Hayes, founder and CEO, Hayes Creative Agency. She had built something from the ashes of neglect, not for revenge, but for peace. Her company was thriving, her team adored her, and her art, the thing her parents once called a hobby, now brought color to global campaigns. But sometimes, when the city quieted at night, she still wondered if they ever thought of her. The call. That question was answered one Thursday morning. "Caroline," said her assistant, voice low, "your brother's on line 1. Should I tell him you're busy?" She hesitated, then sighed. "No, I'll take it." The voice on the other end was hesitant. "Hey, Caro, it's been a while." She leaned back in her chair. "Yes, it has." There was a pause. Then, the real reason: Mom and Dad, they're in trouble. Dad's business failed. The house might be gone. They were hoping I'd help, she finished for him. Silence, then, a soft, "Yeah." For a long moment, Caroline said nothing. She stared at the skyline, the same view she'd built with her own 2 hands, and finally said, "They forgot me when I was worth nothing. Why remember me now?" Her brother exhaled. "They didn't mean to hurt you." "No," she said gently. "They just didn't care enough not to." The meeting. Her parents came to her office the following week. Her mother wore pearls, the same ones she refused to lend Caroline on her wedding day. Her father walked with the same confidence he always had, pretending nothing was wrong. "Sweetheart." Her mother smiled too widely, eyes scanning the expensive office. "Look at you, we're so proud." Caroline smiled back, soft and distant. "Proud of what?" "That I survived you." Her father cleared his throat. "We just need a little help. Alone. You've done so well." "Stop," she said. Her voice was calm but final. "When I was small, I begged you to come see my art shows. You never came. When I got married, I asked you to walk me down the aisle. You didn't show up. When I started this business, you laughed." Her mother's voice trembled. "We made mistakes, Caroline, but we're family." Caroline stood. Her eyes softened, but her spine stayed straight. "Family doesn't abandon you when you're inconvenient," she said. "Family doesn't return only when you've made it." The silence that followed was sharp. Her father looked away first. She exhaled slowly. "I'll help you find someone to manage your debts." But I won't fix what you broke. And with that, she turned back to her window, the city lights reflecting against her tearless eyes. The foundation. Months later, Caroline walked through a sunlit hall where young girls painted murals and digital art across wide studio walls. The sign above the door read, "The Rivera Foundation for Creative Girls." She had named it after the teacher who once told her, "You are not invisible, you're just ahead of your time." One girl, barely 16, shyly approached her with paint-stained hands. "Miss Hayes, did your parents believe in you when you were my age?" Caroline smiled, a real, luminous smile this time. "No," she said softly. "But I learned to believe in myself, and that's how I learned to fly." Epilogue. That night, as the sun melted into the horizon, Caroline sat beside Ethan in their quiet home. That he poured her a glass of wine and asked, "Do you ever think about them?" She looked out the window, the city lights twinkling below. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But not with anger anymore. Just understanding." He smiled. "You turned your pain into power." She took his hand and whispered, "Into peace." Because some stories don't end with revenge, they end with becoming someone your past could never imagine. And for the girl who once walked down the aisle alone, that was enough. The girl who walked alone. The night air outside was cool and gentle, carrying the soft hum of the city below. Caroline stepped onto the balcony, her wedding ring glinting beneath the moonlight. The same ring she had once thought symbolized loneliness, now felt like peace. She closed her eyes and listened, not to the noise of cars or laughter from the streets, but to the quiet strength inside her. Behind her, Ethan walked out, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You did it," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "No," she said softly, "we did it." They stood there, two silhouettes against a sky painted with silver clouds. The world had once turned its back on her, but now, she had built her own. Caroline took one last deep breath and whispered to the wind, "Thank you, for teaching me that even when they don't show up, I still can." And in that moment, she realized something profound. Forgiveness wasn't for them, that it was for her. The girl who once waited by the window, the woman who walked down the aisle alone, and the soul who finally learned that love doesn't always come from where you expect, but when you deserve it most. The camera slowly pulled back, the lights of the city glowing like scattered stars below. The screen faded to black.